In a society where we have access to news at the click of a button, one might question why we need news radio. Tiff Phillips spoke with WATD morning host Rob Hakala to get his perspective about the importance of what he does.
I'm with Rob Hakala from WATD. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Oh, well, it's great to be here, Tiff. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So I have to ask, what's your background? Where are you from originally?
I grew up in the town of Hanover, so I'm a South Shore guy. My mom still lives there, and that's where I spent all my time growing up. So right here, South Shore.
What led you to radio?
It was something I was interested in. My parents and grandparents always had the radio on at night, so I was always used to this murmuring, as I would start to fall asleep, I would hear the radio on, and I was fascinated, and they would listen to talk radio, so I would hear these mumbling voices late at night that my grandfather would listen to, or my dad and my mom, and so it was something I was interested in doing probably around the age of 12 or 13, I would say, and then of course, I created my fake radio station until I could do it for real.
Your fake radio station?
Yeah, I had it, and as my friends will still talk about from their New Year's Eve party, I would do a broadcast from their New Year's Eve party. So yeah, it was something that I started to try to emulate and copy some people that I heard on the radio, and eventually that's what I was drawn to for college.
I love that. So you, at a young age, you really knew that this was going to be it.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was something that I really liked to do, and if you can make a living out of it, it's even better. So yeah, I was doing these fake radio stations, going around with wireless microphones and tape recorders, and recording family members, and having interviews and fake shows. And a couple of things happened along the way. It was good. My grandmother and grandfather, they had a connection at a radio station in Providence. So one of the things, no matter what you like to do, you want to see, listen, you want to be a firefighter, you want to see a fire station, or you want to be a pilot, you want to go see an airplane. So seeing a radio station is like a dream come true. And so they took me down to a group of radio stations in Rhode Island, and I got to see the hosts and see the studios and see how it works. And then I was hooked. I knew I wanted to do that, and then it was time to pick a college where I could kind of take it in more and learn some more about the craft, and that's what I did when I went to Curry.
That's awesome. And have you always had the voice?
Well, no, I mean, I guess there was always some regional dialects that you need to get rid of, and you can do that in voice and diction classes. You can listen to those tapes, or maybe we don't want to listen to those audio tapes. They still exist, and you can hear certainly my voice would be a little different, perhaps.
So tell me about WATD. What is its mission?
The mission of WATD is to super serve the South Shore with local news and information, sports, community events, politics. Basically, because of its signal and where it is, it covers the South Shore. It's not a Boston radio station. It's not a Cape radio station or, out in Worcester. It covers the South Shore, and that's where its bubble is. And so it was put on in the 1970s. With that purpose by the owner who still owns the radio station today in 2024. And so that's still the mission today, is the same as it's always been.
So in a day where we have access to the news at a click of a button, we can go on Facebook and kind of get our own version of news. One might question why we would need any kind of news radio. Why do you think that is?
Well, I understand. I think you can get news anywhere. Of course, I would just caution that you need to be concerned where it comes from. A lot of people are getting information from forums, and it's just a lot of rumor and innuendo, and it's good to still have somebody that's paid. And of course, just like the newspapers would say, you need to have revenue to fund that if you're going to pay somebody to be a real reporter. I would say that having somebody like that, it's somebody that is going to cover your town and bring you accurate information. So yes, you can get click from a news at the click of a button, including our website, which we, have evolved over the years to put our stories online. But at least that it's being vetted by a news team and something that, is award-winning, that we have the years of experience to prove that. So I would say it's still important to have somebody at least covering your town. Many people say, as I'm sure you've heard, there's been newspaper cuts and other news cuts. Nobody comes around and covers my issues anymore. So that's where, there can be shenanigans, and who knows, not to say anything, but, sometimes if nobody's watching the government, then that's when things can happen. So it's good to have somebody to cover the community, I think.
Yeah, we're both in the business of hyper-local coverage.
Yes.
That's really important to make sure that viewers are getting the information that's relevant to them, you know?
Yes.
Totally
Yeah.
understand. What are your thoughts on where radio is right now? Is it here to stay?
Radio has been around for over 100 years. So, yeah, you had radio, it was around, in the 1920s, the first radio stations on AM. Of course, television came along and people said radio would be dead. And it didn't. It just changed and evolved. And I think that's what you're seeing now and you'll continue to see. With the internet, I think that would probably be the biggest changes that we've seen. I mean, yes, you can go to satellite radio. A lot of people will use different sites to stream audio. But radio is just audio. That's what it is. So people say, well, I listen to podcasts. It's still a form of radio if it's not on the radio. It's still audio. So I would say radio is still going to be around in the future. Numbers have gone down, but numbers have gone down for television viewing. They've gone down for a lot of different media. There's just more pieces of the pie, right? It's divided up. You can get anything you want whenever you want. So the audience is not going to be as high as, for watching network television as it was. And so I think that radio will still be around. The latest numbers say around 8 in 10 Americans, or 82% of people 12 and over, still listen to the radio once a week. We'd love for that to be every day, but
That's
it
a
still
great
tells
number
you.
still, yeah.
Yeah, it still tells you that I will access the radio at some point. Maybe not every day, but I will use the radio for something. Whether it be, oh my gosh, what's this backup for? Or I just heard about an evacuation or an explosion somewhere. Radio is still be immediacy. Podcast, is great, but what about when you want to hear something live? People talking about something live, reacting to something live, callers, talking about something live. And then thank goodness for sports. Sports is still something that people want to consume basically on a live basis.
So I need to know what a typical day looks like for you. But most importantly, what time do you get out of bed? Because you do a morning show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what people like to ask about. That's a very popular question. And that's where you know whether you want to do this or not forever. So, yeah, it's about 3:30. Between 3:20 and 3:30, the alarm goes off. You kind of get it down after doing this for 23 or 24 years. You make your routine as short as possible. And then I'm out on the road, usually at after 4:15. And then I get to the radio station around 4:30, 4:35. And then we go on it live at 5. So again, we're there for people that are up at 5 in the morning. And then we go till 10. So it's, 5 straight hours of live radio, Monday through Friday. And then after that, I get to do other fun things around the station, or come, be on other shows like this one, or go out and do remote broadcasts. That's always a fun thing that we've done over the past, to broadcast from a business or an event.
What kind of events do you actually do?
Well, typically a business will connect with us, some of our partners, to have us come out to, whether it be, for example, the Mamma Mia is celebrating 50 years in Kingston. So come on down and do a live broadcast, sure. Or another local bakery, they wanted to sell a lot of pies for Thanksgiving. So we did a Pie-a-Palooza remote. And we had some fun selling pies. And it was so much fun. People come out. And again, it's so great to have someone say, I was just listening to the radio and I turned around and came in. It's the immediacy that I think is still fun, is that you can connect. For example, we were talking about an event that was going on for Valentine's Day. And while we were doing the interview, the woman was checking some kind of stats, I guess, and said, people are buying tickets right now.
Oh, wow.
That's great. I mean, we love that to happen all the time. But it just proves again, you can talk to someone, and it's word of mouth. It's the immediacy of radio is fun, to have a conversation and talk about something and say, again, how exciting something might be, or to describe something. So yeah, I mean, I love doing the studio, but I think getting out on the road and getting out and seeing people is fun whenever we can.
Is that the best part about your job? What brings you the most joy?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think, doing the show is so fun because there's, obviously a format. It's mainly news and talk in the morning, not so much music. So there is a format and it's very rigid. And I like that, having a routine. But then again, it's not really routine because the news is different every day. There's always going to be a new story. You're not going to be talking about the same things. So I would say the joy for me is, having a job that I really just love to come into the studio every day. But yeah, getting outside is fun, especially when it's warmer.
Mm.
We used to take the show out on the road for a while in the summers, and we did that for a few years because I guess just like this, like anything, you will have your loyal customers, people that already love you and know about you. But how do you get new people to find out about you?
Right.
You can't just do commercials on your own station. They're not listening. They're not there. So the idea is to go out and do outreach and just do silly broadcasts from places. And then eventually you'll have people say, well, who is this? Or I didn't know there was a radio station, and it saddens me, but sometimes you'll still get that because we have to remember, I grew up on the South Shore, but there are people that move here all the time that love the South Shore. Maybe they're retiring here. Maybe they're living in the Pine Hills and they're just coming down. And it's great. You have to say, they don't know about this place. And most people are very excited that the South Shore has its own radio station. It is kind of cool. And, I'm sure you'll agree that the South Shore has kind of this identity as a region. And that's one of the things that I think makes it so special is there's all these unique things about this area.
Yeah, we're kind of just one giant town.
Yeah, exactly. I'm from the South Shore, and you take a lot of pride in it, and,
Yeah.
it's fun, and that's what's kind of special about WATD.
Yeah. So what does it feel like to be you're part of people's mornings, like when they're driving to work, when they're getting ready in the morning? How does that feel?
Well, yeah, no, it's important, I think, to make sure that you bring them the information that they want every day, and to do so, to try to provide humor where you can. There's a lot of, we know, news that we'll say is very serious that we don't do a lot of jokes about. There have been serious moments in my 24 years of doing this show that we've been, live on the air, like September 11, that's 2001. I was barely starting my show. Those kind of moments, I think about are important. But then we have days that are just fun and interviewing guests. And so every day is different. And I think that people they like their routines, right? Everybody has, I get up and I have this to drink, I have this coffee, or I only go here. And so they like to listen to the show. And people say, I always ask them, well, when do you listen? I always listen between 7:30 and 8 or whatever it is because they have their routine. Of course, I will say, speaking of routines, and I'm sure you guys have had things, the pandemic changed everything, didn't it, when it comes to routines?
Yeah.
I had a woman that just reached out that was listening to the show and said, I used to listen all the time because I commuted into Boston. Well, guess what? She doesn't anymore. Right. She works from her house. We love people to be in their cars and stuck in traffic. That's the best thing about radio. I want Route 3 to be backed up to Rockland. But the truth is that people do have different patterns. So this is a woman that thankfully fell in love with the show again for some kind of segment. She's like, oh, thanks for bringing me home again.
Oh.
So that's kind of fun. So, and then you've got people where, they grow up and their routines change, but it's always trying to get the next generation interested, I think, in what we're doing, for no matter what your business, to stay in business.
What advice do you have for future on-air people who want to be an on-air talent like yourself?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah. And one of the things that I love doing is we work with interns. And so from my own college, Curry College, we'll have students come, and it's kind of great to see them over the years, all the different students. And they have some fun getting experience, some real-time experience at the station. And I would say, as I tell them before, just get involved with whatever you're doing at college. You don't have to be a broadcasting major. As I tell people, I think, if you have a good personality and you're real, I think people want to have that sincerity. They want a real person to talk to. So just be yourself, be interested in things, be curious. And I would say just go and try to work at whatever you think will help you get there. It doesn't have to be radio. It can be podcasts, can be some kind of just streaming platform, some kind of audio project. I always tell people to just try to explore all the options to see kind of what speaks to them in a way. I think everybody is drawn to different things. When it comes to radio, it's very general. Most people think, just I'm going to be on the air and then be a DJ and playing music, but maybe it's a sports host. Sports radio is very popular, or talk, or then there's all the people that you need behind the scenes, how to do the engineering or sell things. We try to do is expose them to all the different parts of the radio station, and then get involved. That's what I always say, is just to pursue your dreams. And, again, even if you're not in broadcasting, you can still go into radio.
And lastly, what does the future hold for you?
Well, the future for me, I would say I'm happy to do what I'm doing. And as I said before, as long as the radio station is still around and the management likes what I'm doing and we're doing a good job, I'd be happy to stay. I mean, this is where I grew up. My family's still here. And so I love the South Shore, and I'd like to see ATD grow and continue. And I'm happy to be a part of that mission for as long as possible. So I hope to keep doing for as long as I can do it.
We're happy to listen. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tiff.
Hey friend, thanks for stopping by. If you like this video by The Local Scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.